The goal is to be transformational, not just transactional. We're continuing our podcast series about great leaders, and today we're focusing on how great leaders grow leaders. And in doing that, we have to be transformational in that process, not just transactional. A transactional leader looks like somebody who just assigns tasks and manages those tasks. And if you're working on a project, they get the task done and we all get the things done that we need to get done. And then we move on to the next project, but we're still at the same level and we never grow what's called our production capacity of ourselves and the people that we're leading and influencing. A transformational leader not only assigns tasks and gets things done through their team, but they grow leaders in the process, and they're transformational in that so that when we move on to things down the line, they're able to take on new responsibilities, and it builds the production capacity of them and of yourself as well. So I want to give you 3 attributes of transformational leaders and 3 things that you can do as a transformational leader to grow other leaders. And I think the first thing is they invest in the lives of other people. They invest in the leadership skills of other people. And I think a lot of times when we talk about being a transformational leader, a lot of people say, well, that's going to take a lot of time and we got to get stuff done. And they stay at a manager level of just managing the actions and the tasks of other people, but they don't invest the time in growing them as leaders along the way. And what I've found in my own experience and also in coaching high performance and high potential leaders is that it only takes a little bit more time to grow people in the process and to invest in them along the way, but it can have huge returns down the line. And so the key question for you as you think about this week is, are you making time to invest in the lives of people that you grow and influence and lead? And so you've been given them a responsibility and a responsibility for them. Are you investing in them? And whether you're a coach or a business leader, it's important that we invest in the people that we lead and influence. And part of that is writing down, how am I going to invest in them this week? Who am I going to invest in? And what are the most important things I can do to meet with them, to encourage them, to make sure that they're doing okay? But checking in and investing in them with some intentional time is really important, and that's the first step. The second thing is that great leaders who grow leaders teach other leaders. And so we have to develop a teachable point of view if we want to share something that's of value and to teach other people. And so part of that as we go along and become a leader is developing a teachable point of view around what we've learned and how we can share that with other people. And then we spend time teaching them about things that we're doing. It might be if we're on a project and maybe we're managing a work plan, we teach them how we go about developing that work plan. Or if it's writing a communication or teaching them about a presentation skill, we share with them things that we've learned along the way, and we teach them along the way as well. If it's a team that we're leading, maybe we teach them about certain fundamentals of the sport or position that they're playing and take time to do that in addition to the practice time that we have where we're working on game planning, but we teach the fundamentals along the way as well. And the key question is, how much time are you spending in teaching your players and your team along the way as a leader? And that's a great responsibility. You can't just assume they're going to know something or pick up something just by observation. We have to be active in the process of teaching them, which leads to the third point, and that's growing them. You could also say trusting them, but great leaders who grow other leaders by giving them responsibility. And that's how we grow leaders, is to trust them with responsibility. The way I used to do this in leading teams is to give people a part of a presentation we were going to give to a client. And we may have been going into that presentation. It may have been a big client presentation that we were doing, and I could have taken the whole presentation and done it, or maybe just given it to one person. But sometimes I like to divide that up and allow somebody to take responsibility of a part of the presentation to a client, especially if they had been working on that and they were passionate about that and had strengths in that area, and give them any guidance that they needed along the way, but allow them to step into those moments, and it allowed them to grow in their capabilities and their responsibilities and also in their skill sets. And so as we think about that, part of it's giving up control to trust your team with certain parts of a plan that you're working on and certain parts of a goal as well. If you're developing leaders on a sports team, maybe it's allowing them to take over the huddle in certain circumstances or at practice to offer some insights that maybe you could do that through your own voice. But your team hears that so much from you that allowing it to come from somebody in a player position, and maybe it's a captain on your team, to allow them to voice the things that you've been doing, but to say it in a fresh way allows more buy-in in that, and it also grows them as a leader. So as you think about great leaders, growing leaders, how are you investing in the lives of other people? How are you teaching them? And then how are you growing them and trusting them along the way so that as you go through time that they're able to take on more responsibility, it builds up your production capacity, builds up their production capacity, and is beneficial for the organization and the team that you're leading. So I want you to think about that this week. How can we be more effective leaders? By growing other leaders. That's the goal. It's not just to accumulate a bunch of people who are reporting to us or who are underneath us in a hierarchy, but it's to grow other leaders so they can take on leadership responsibilities and you can get out of the way and they grow as leaders and you move on to the next thing and being able to grow that generation of leaders. And as always, let's make the most of the moments in our life.